Shout out to Satou Sabally for getting her flowers, but shame on y'all for leaving Alyssa Thomas off y'all's ballots. More on that after the break. What? What is up, Merc fam? Welcome back to the PHNX Mercury podcast. I am your host, Erica Day, and I'm joined by QB1, PG1, in the studio, on and off the field, on and off the court. I finally didn't get a verbal typo this time. SPG, Stephen Pridgeon Garner, how the heck are you doing on this fine Monday afternoon? I don't even want to call it a fine Monday afternoon. It's not a fine Monday afternoon. We're going to get into why, but how are you on this fine day?
Everything was good till that happened earlier. That's yeah, we gotta be better as a basketball community. Professionals, fans, everywhere in between. We gotta be better. Um for us, that's specific to obviously Alyssa Thomas, but Skylar Diggins has been one of the four best guards in the entire WNBA this season. And for neither of those two, who are both all WNBA talents, if the season ended right now, they're both probably on the first team. At worst, one on the first, one on the second team. For neither of them to be starting, it's not making sense. We got to be better, y'all.
Yeah, we'll get into that in like a few minutes because I'm gonna go on a whole rampage about it. But shout out to Ayrton for throwing the X's and O's while Kevo continues to avoid the PHNX Mercury podcast. Mr. Vacation. Shouts to him though. He was in Atlanta and he took his time going to see the New York Liberty and the Atlanta Dream. And boy, that arena just looks so hype. I have to go there. Like it's not a like need. It's not a want. It's a need. I must go to that arena. So it looked lit in there, and it looked like Kevo had a fun time. And I don't think he cared who won because I don't think you can sports bet in the state of Georgia. So I
Facts.
told him he needed to pull for the dream because it helps our situational standings here on planet Mercury. So I hope he stuck with that, but he can do whatever he wants. He's a free man. Um, but nonetheless, I feel like we should get to like the big news about expansion and then we'll jump into All Star so that uh this morning, unbeknownst to all of us, Kathy Engelbert called the press conference first thing this morning, 10 a.m. our time, and announces three expansion locations in Cleveland, Philly, and oh my gosh, if I hadn't Detroit, my gosh.
Detroit.
Um,
There you go.
yeah. So the three of those locations are super exciting. I'm not gonna lie, I am. I'm not gonna. I'm not a little disappointed. I'm a lot a bit disappointed about the Tennessee Summit. I can't lie, that's my home state. So, and I told you guys the story about my granddad and UT. So I was real excited about that whole team. It just really felt right and like it would open the door for more teams in the South. I don't know. It felt like a good location and I don't know. A certain part of me does understand the NBA connection piece of it all, but the Grizzlies are right there, man. Just get over it. Like, I don't know. I think it's fine. So, your thoughts on the expansion announcement we got this morning from Kathy?
um, as media members, we would like to get a little more of a heads up on
Agreed.
when these types of things are happening. We can start there. Definitely need that part. Congratulations to each of those cities though. Um, I think maybe the one I'm most excited about would be Detroit, just because of the basketball history there. Literally having had a franchise before as well, I think also matters. Other thing for me with Detroit is there's a certain type of energy that Detroit basketball fans have, and I think that would be a lot of fun to bring back into the fold for the WNBA. I'll kick it back to you. Which city are you maybe most excited to see unveil their new franchise or unveil their franchise rather? And then I got a question for you after that.
I do think I'm partial to Philly because honestly,
Mhm,
mostly because of Ka. I just thought of her and Dawn and just all the connections that are already within the WNBA and Philly. I that seems like such a great spot. And I saw a tweet saying something about the 76 hers, and that made me cackle. Like obviously it's probably not real or like ever gonna happen, but it did
mhm,
make me laugh. I just feel like it's such a rich basketball city. So I think that's probably the one I'm most excited about.
for sure. If I asked you one city or one state that you would like to have a WNBA franchise as expansion continues rampantly, what would be one city or state that you would choose?
Is it
I'll give you options too. You can duplicate city if you want to. So if you think that, let's just say, Los Angeles should have two teams, or if you think Chicago or New York should have two teams, I won't be mad at you for that.
no, I wouldn't be mad about I'm still standing on business with Tennessee and quite literally
Mhm,
anywhere in the great state of Tennessee. You know, if you want to do the whole NBA thing, fine. I won't be crazy about it being in Memphis, but um whatever, it is what it is. I'd just be stoked that it was in the state. But
mhm,
honestly, like I'd be cool with North Carolina, anywhere south-ish would
mhm.
make the dream is looking awfully lonely down there, man. So you know, I don't really want Florida, but I would be happier with it than how congested all the locations feel right now up in the Northeast. But I don't know, beggars can't be choosers either. So I would be just stoked with anywhere in the South, but I am partial to Tennessee. Or and Andy makes a great point, or Houston.
Yeah, I was going south as well. Obviously, Houston. If not only for jerseys, the jerseys was so tough back in the day. Shout out to one of the legends. Um, but also South Carolina and everything that they are as a powerhouse for basketball on the women's side, as a factory for athletes going to the professional level. I think that a fan base there would cause issues across the entire W, not unlike what we're seeing with the Golden State Valkyries right now. That would be a lot of fun to see them with the franchise, and to see the type of fandom that would flock to, and no pun intended by flock, but flock to a South Carolina team being down there in that state. That would be a lot of fun. I also think I understand the hesitancy with Florida, but just imagine what a Miami WNBA team would do in terms of numbers and attention and being
Well,
an
and
attraction city.
Amanda brings a great point in the comments. Like Unrivaled drew great crowds. The
And
city was
that's what
great
I'm
to
getting
them.
at. Exactly. Exactly. So I think Florida would be a fun option if it was Miami in particular. Any other city probably isn't worth it. But yeah, I'll be looking in that southeast region in particular, between North Carolina, whether it's Charlotte, South Carolina, obviously being down there, and then obviously with Florida, Miami in particular. I think there needs to be a little bit more traction going towards that hot pocket for basketball.
Well, and I saw a lot of discussions happening about it today, and I don't know if I feel the same way, but a lot of people think that there's going to be a hesitancy to like continue to add expansion teams, and I don't know that I really feel similarly. I I don't know that they'll just stop. So you know, you never know for certain, but I don't
Mhm.
get the feeling that this is the end of it. I feel like we're probably going to get up to 20, and like this brings us up to 18, which I am going to be grateful when this league is back to an even amount of teams, because I think having 13 or
Yes.
15 or 17 is absolutely the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Mhm.
But you know, like it is what it is. Again, beggars can't be choosers, right? So I'm stoked with the Valkyries, and they've laid such a great blueprint for what an expansion team can be. So I hope, you know, Portland, all these other places take a note out of their book because they've done a really, really fantastic job. I don't know that I would throw, you know, waving Julie Van Loo in there with the fantastic job part of it, but you know,
Yeah.
nonetheless, I had to make the decisions around there, and this
Yeah,
isn't the Valkyrie podcast, but that is crazy.
yeah.
I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, that was something right there. I know a team that should be hitting Julia probably should have already probably flew her out, to be honest, over in the the
Is it a
good
blue
old
team?
the good old Midwest. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was hoping that's what you were talking about, because,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I mean, everyone should be calling her a line as far as I'm concerned. If
Yeah.
you got any cap
Agreed.
space at all and you can make it work, call
Yeah.
her up, but,
But
uh,
nobody's got that void at the point guard spot in
yeah,
particular that you know how that go. But yeah.
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 Well, I'm glad we talked about that because now we're gonna get into the all-star things, and I do wanna start this little portion off by giving Satu her flowers because
Oh,
honestly, I would go ahead.
before we go there too, expansion is awesome. It's sensational. Don't want to expand too fast. We talked about last week getting too big for britches. You don't want to expand too fast for what your league is capable of facilitating to in an organized manner. You also should at least further entertain the idea of expanding rosters.
Yeah,
You have entirely too much talent that is either abroad or just not playing on a roster right now, waiting for their next WNBA opportunity because there's only so many spots available. And yes, only having so many spots raises the competition level, but you want to keep as much talent as the Premier League of the entire world stateside as much as you possibly can. One of the ways in which you're going to go about doing that is by increasing the salary cap, which will inevitably happen over the turn of the calendar into the next season. But the other part would be to open up roster spots. I'll leave it at that. It's not the first time or second or third time, nor will it be the last time. And I probably believe that Erica's got something else to say in addition to that.
yeah, yeah, I'll be honest, I was equally as annoyed as I'm sure you were when I got the email at 10:02 about the 10 o'clock press conference, but then
Yep.
I was even more annoyed when I'm listening to the press conference and they straight up ask her about roster expansion and it like I don't have her exact answer, handy, but I will tell you that it wasn't uh m- it didn't satisfy my desires because to Steven's point, like we talked about Ka's usage rate last year. Why was Ka used the way in which she was? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Oh, it's because BG broke her foot. Beck Allen broke her back. Like, oh, I'm sorry. It's because our primary players were sitting on the bench. Like,
Yep.
so I hate to say it, but it's just, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you give them an inch and they take a mile, and like they're taking the wrong mile too quickly. I I no one is saying that, "Oh, we're gonna have our superstars sit out like they do in the NBA." Like, we're not no one is having that conversation, but maybe instead of, Alyssa Thomas having to play 38 minutes come August 30th, maybe she only has to play 32 minutes. So, it is what it is. Beggars can't be choosers, but, yeah, it was a
Mm-hmm.
frustrating, announcement to say the least, but
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, I'm
One
excited
more
about the
one more
expansion.
thing. One more thing.
Oh gosh.
And when I said you're gonna be mad, but then you're gonna be like shaking your head like bobblehead style. Other big thing with the Mercury, the usage last season for Kalia, largely because of injury, but also because of just the way things were set up, she had to do more. Other big thing, they couldn't practice in a full capacity last season
Correct.
because they
Like
were operating with 9 players at best for 85 to 90% of the season. That's tough. How is a team supposed to get better over the course of a season if you typically can't practice because, or you got coaches participating fully in practice just to facilitate a 5-on-5 situation? Like those things matter. If you're talking about raising the level of competition of the league, you need the players on the roster to be able to do that. 12 is just barely making it enough to actually have 10 or 5-on-5 or 10 players on the court at one time dynamic. Now, obviously, teams don't play 5-on-5 for the duration of practice, but the game is played 5-on-5. And if you can't replicate game scenarios because you only have a certain percentage of your roster available at practice, and depending on what the scheduling is, it's bold to assume you have time to practice in certain pockets of the schedule. It got to be better on the logistics side. And obviously, all of that stuff is not Kathy, so I'm not speaking specifically to her. But these conversations need more urgency than it seems like they have had over the past 2 to 3 seasons now. The level of competition is rising. That's great. The level of skill is rising. That's awesome. The attention for the league is at an all-time high for the third or fourth season in a row now. All of those things are sensational. The logistics and everything involved with that, with the non-court product, has to be better to rise with the tide. If it doesn't, things are gonna fall. They're gonna be succumb to a lot of inconsistency, and you don't want to have that when you're taking off. You don't want to meet more resistance with your escape velocity than has already kind of been presented to you as it was. You need to continue to progress. And that's kind of all I really got on that.
Yeah, it's just been a long road ahead. CBA renegotiations coming. That's another thing is like, don't
Yeah.
get everybody. I saw everybody freaking out this morning. Oh, it's going to be so hard to have continuity. Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. Continuity is a thing of yesterday. It's in terms of the WNBA. So good luck in the next 5 seasons in the WNBA
Yeah.
because there's going to be an expansion draft every single year. It's
Yeah.
going to look different every single year for the next foreseeable future. So,
Mm-hmm.
comfortability is just a thing of the past. So
Yep.
that's all I'll say about that. I feel like teams that are willing to spend and invest are going to have great teams and no matter what. And other teams might be coached very well. So
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, though, I want to get into this All Star thing because I have quite a bit to say on the matter. I want to start with Satu though because I feel like I want to bring some positivity to the pod, and obviously Satu was voted to be a starter. Should we go through the other starters before we
Nah,
just
we can
talk out of
start with
our?
Satu.
Okay, go nuts.
we could
Uh,
have we could have did that if they played nice with AT, but nah, because of that, we could just start with Satu.
you're right. Yeah, Asatu's done it all for the Phoenix Mercury this year. She's had the most 20-point games out of, I believe, anyone in the WNBA this season. I think the last I checked, she had 9, and I don't believe she broke that over the weekend. So I know she scored 20 in the game on Friday versus the Liberty, I believe, but I don't think she did versus the Aces. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that still keeps her count at 9. But she's been doing it all for the Mercury without cost. She's been pushing on the rim, spreading the floor, doing everything you could ask her to do on the offensive end, but also being a huge connector on the defensive end. And so, I'm glad that you guys were able to see, the value she brings to the floor. Overall, I'm glad that the general masses were able to see the value that she brought to the floor because I guess the general masses aren't as smart as I thought. So I'm glad they could at least get part of it right.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun for Satu this season. She's sixth in points at 19.1. That's on track for to be a career high. She's also in terms of rebounds, she is tied for eighth with 8 as well. Actually, she's really just straight up eighth in the league. In addition to that, also she's averaging about 1.4, almost 1.5 steals per game as well. Speaking to just her activity on the defensive end, she's been every bit as important to the defensive end as she's been to the offensive end for the identity that the team is looking to establish on both ends of the floor. She's also been the only player in their big three that's been available for every game this season so far. And that's extremely important to note because of the obviously the volume of injuries the Mercury have been seeing. So people want to talk about numbers, and I think again, numbers are awesome if you're applying the context. If the context is not being applied, then the numbers don't mean as much if you can't paint the picture or it's not helping to support what it is that you're speaking to. And to that point, a lot of things people want to speak directly to with Satu is the 3-point percentage, 30%. And they want to talk about the shot selection. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about it for a quick 15 seconds. And I'll just explain that the shots that she's taking is because of the process that the team is playing in. How many of those shots are coming against soft coverage, and the best shot available is for her to take a shot in rhythm from deep off of a dribble, something that she practices. She practices time and time again. Every single day at practice, she's repping out these off the dribble threes and these catch and shoot threes. Those are good shots for her. Those are great shots for the team. Those are the shots that they want to take. She would not have had to take as many as she's had to if she wasn't in the lineup almost as the only player in the big three for a significant portion of the first quarter and some change of the regular season. Those things will shift and get a lot more in alignment with the player and the shot taker that she's been over the course of her season as things progress, and knock on wood that the team stays healthy. those things being said, she's still been one of the best players in the W. We've spoken since preseason when they released the player rankings, saying that she had potential to easily be top 10, especially in the system that she was going to be playing in here in Phoenix. And needless to say, she's been a top 10 player in the entire W this season. And being voted as a starter in the All-Star game, even though that's not true in all cases, definitely aligns with what she's been comprehensively this season for the Mercury.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're talking about with her three-point percentage. Rob says it in the comments that Sato will be at 35% from three by the end of the year at least, and I feel like even higher than that probably. So I
Yep.
have good faith in the shots will start falling. And every year the Mercury has a couple games where they just shoot extremely poorly, and they've had like two of them from three so far this year. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect them to have quite as many more of those. I'll be honest with you, as the big three comes to their full power, I just think we're going to see less and less of those like sore thumb performances from the Phoenix Mercury, especially from the 3-point line. But congrats to Satu. I am super happy with this part of the result. I need to put an
Mm-hmm.
emphasis on this part of the result because,
Mm-hmm.
as you can probably tell, I'm about to blow smoke
Other big
out of my
thing,
ears.
other
Go
big thing,
ahead.
one last thing, maybe the most important for me was Satu. People talk about the 3-point shooting on offense and ignore how often she's spending time in the paint. As if she's just standing outside the 3-point line and not doing anything else, which couldn't be any further from the truth. She's averaging a career high in free throw attempts right now, 6.2 a game. That's 6.2 a game that she's taking. As I do a quick double check here, it is fifth in the WNBA, 6.2 free throw attempts on average. And as Alyssa Thomas and Kalia Copper get integrated back into things, you better believe they're going to stake some claim in the top 20. And that speaks to everything we spoke to in preseason with this team having three players that were in the top 30 for free throw attempts last season. That's going to be something that shifts the dynamic and gameplay for the team. Satu spearheading all of that with her approach to the offensive end.
Yeah, totally agreed. Anything else on Satu before I start going? Let it roll?
Nope, we good.
Okay, all right. Well, I have been yelling from the rooftops for the last 3 weeks. My rooftop, Steven's rooftop, the studio's rooftop, PHX Arena's rooftop, to stop having MVP conversations without Alyssa Thomas's name. I thought it was just honestly self-explanatory that that also meant to put her on your All-Star ballot. I know I yelled that from the rooftops as well, but I've been really heavy on the MVP campaign. I feel like it's a more worthy cause, and to my own point, we'll get to that in a second, but Alyssa Thomas, and I'm gonna let Steven get into the numbers because I'm sure he's
Nope,
got
you go
them.
ahead.
Oh,
ISO, go
not
crazy.
I'm gonna say it, but
I'll
I know
pick up
she's leading the
after.
W in assists per game, and she's averaging 16.9. This is off the dome, okay? Just so everybody knows, off the dome, 16.9 points per game. I believe that I'm gonna say 7 rebounds because I think it's 6, and I also have a feeling it's 8. So
7.
I'm gonna say 7. Okay, period. And I know 8.9 or no 9.3 assists per game. Period. Yeah. She's doing it all for the Mercury, and the defensive stats don't really like apply with Alyssa Thomas in the correct way. If you're entirely honest with yourselves, what she does not show up on the stat sheet, and I hate that phrase. If you know one thing about Erica Day, I hate when coaches are up on that podium talking about, oh, so and so does so much that doesn't show up on a stat sheet. Okay, well, did you win? Oh, well, except for the Mercury is 10-1 when Alyssa Thomas is on the floor. So they are winning. They're winning games with her on the floor. They have, I'm sorry, so that makes them 1, 2, and 3 without her, 2 and 4 without her. I think the product on the floor speaks for itself as far as the plus or minus. I don't need to get into her efficiency because, quite frankly, she is that good. She is a top 2 player in the WNBA right now, and it's literally not even a discussion. I would say she's 1B for the MVP conversation, and Asia Wilson literally said it herself just yesterday. So the fact that I have to bully the WNBA community into believing in Alyssa Thomas's abilities is absolutely diabolical. I truly feel like she is the most disrespected superstar of like the entire league. You know, whether it's in MVP conversations, even in Defensive Player of the Year conversations, man. And then on top of it, in the fan voting for All-Star. And I know that the Phoenix Mercury is not everybody's favorite team. I get it. And that is a big part of it. But even the media vote, are you
Hmm.
people insane? Like, and just to double check my work, I would hate to lie on the media, but I'm pretty sure that she ranked sixth,
I think
which
it was seventh. I think it was seventh.
seventh in the media vote, which is
Hmm.
absolutely insane. And just to, clarify, cross our T's, dot our I's, because Stephen and I have done so many times on this show, neither of us are voters. And so the fact that she is ranking seventh is not our fault. We didn't do that. And I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh my gosh, the WNBA media is terrible. But are y'all watching these games? And if you are, what are you seeing that I'm not? Because that vote does not make any sense whatsoever if you are watching the Phoenix Mercury play basketball. So, without further ado, I will let Steven finish out that level of argument. Ooh,
Yeah. Um, I think this is where it's a little bit of a crossroads as far as the way that voting goes. Because if it's for basketball reasons, and I say that intentionally, if it's for basketball reasons, there is no way that a player that is no worse than 1B in this season's MVP race is not starting in the All-Star game. And I honestly believe from conversations and hearing Alyssa talk about accolades the last couple of seasons now, she's grown numb to being snubbed. This is nothing new. This is a player that's an all-time great, regardless of what side of basketball you want to talk about. An all-time great, a unicorn in her own right that doesn't have an MVP, which is insane considering she's been top three, no worse than top three the last 5 to 6 years. Like it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and I feel like things are not. It's not enough basketball that's baked into the reasoning why voting is going the way that it's going, and that's for a league. That's for league awards. That's as simple as it gets for All Star game, and it goes to obviously the end of the season awards as well. It's not enough basketball reasons that are being brought into the mix for why decisions are being made. And because of that, an all-time great that's having arguably her best season to date, like Alyssa Thomas is succumbed to not even starting in the All-Star game. Like that makes zero sense from a basketball perspective. Now, if there's other lenses that people are looking at the game through, I probably don't even understand those if I'm being honest. But I know for basketball and watching the entire league, there's not been a player that's playing better than Alyssa Thomas has been all season long for the Phoenix Mercury.
well, and
No stats mentioned, by the way. No stats needed. We just talking impact right now. Forget the stats, forget all of the stuff that she's first in the league at, which we've been lamenting the last 4 weeks now, 5 weeks. I'm talking about impact. Shifting a
uh,
culture. Shifting a culture that was already one of the best in the W upon the landing of her plane. Like the tone was set at her first media availability. That was months before actual training camp started. It's different. It's different. And I appreciate Alyssa because some players allow for that to affect them in some capacity. Some people can they can fake the funk and kind of say that it doesn't impact them, but you can tell that it does. She very much could care less. Like she could genuinely care less. She says she's here to win the championship, and that's the one thing that's on her mind. Anything that comes with that is cool. But as long as it comes with a championship. So again, for Mercury fans, you're talking about dogs, all-time great dogs. To go from Diana Taurasi to Alyssa Thomas, you all are spoiled. Spoiled rotten, actually, if I'm being honest. And this is just another indicator of that. Not the context you want to be evaluating and assessing it through, but it's very much that.
yeah, I mean, our own viewers make great comments. Like, she is a great percentage of our offense. You can go back to our post game when we talked about them versus the New York Liberty. Stephen had a great trivia question about her assist numbers. And like the numbers speak for themselves. She is responsible for a great portion of the offense. And then on top of it, like literally runs the defensive end of the court like it's the freaking Navy. And so, I just I don't think that we're fully seeing the vision here. I know that Nate Tibbetts gets disrespected a lot. I get it. I do. I understand that you don't have time to watch every single game of the year, but there is a certain level of respect that you have to show these players when you're in charge of these certain things. And so I do just hope that if the Mercury season continues to play out the way that it has so far, and Alyssa Thomas continues to do the things that she is doing, I most certainly hope that the voters have a change of heart come September, because this is just putting it plain. Like, I'm bringing my word back out. It's egregious, man. It's egregious.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this. It's not gonna be intentional pursuit of it, and I'll come back and be wrong. I don't care. Alyssa's gonna go and win MVP this season, and it's not because she's intentionally going after the award. It's because of everything that she's already been doing for this Phoenix Mercury team. There's nothing she hasn't done that's unsustainable. And I can't imagine a slip off in any capacity for her in terms of production on either end of the court the rest of the season. In fact, as Kalia continues to be consistent in the rotation, I imagine Alyssa's numbers are going to continue to get better. And this is
Hmm.
somebody that I'm saying is no worse than 1B in the MVP race right now. No worse than the 1B player in the entire W. And if you're asking me to make a choice, she's been the best player comprehensively this season. Impact, the team's record when she's on versus when they're off, the advanced stats that if you want to go that route, what it looks like when she's on versus when she's off, like it's different. It's very very different. It's MVP different. And Alyssa's probably gonna walk into an MVP award winning season this at the end of it all because of the lengths and the heights that she's taking this Mercury team to. That a lot of people said they weren't even sure if they was gonna make the playoffs coming into the regular season. And everything
Yeah.
else just aligning with that, all stemming from her presence alone.
Yeah. Yeah, and Tanika in the comments, nothing will convince me that they will give her the votes she needs to win MVP after 2023. And honestly, it's a great point.
Yeah,
It was her greatest
yeah.
season of all time, career best and everything. And so, yeah, it's definitely a long season ahead for me and my agendas. I won't lie, but on a more positive note, anything else before we? Because anything else before we go?
Nope. I think we
I think
did
I've
we did a good bit of justice to the name of Alyssa Thomas.
Yeah, I don't have any doubts in my mind that they will make her an all-star. If they do, I'm so for real that there will be hell to pay. The other name, real quick, that I'm just gonna drop real quick that I feel like isn't getting as much attention is Gabby Williams for not being a starter. And the front court is so tough, it really
Hmm.
is. It is so hard, and I envy the people that actually have to make the decisions. That it's tough. But Gabby Williams, man, she's having an insane year, and so I couldn't believe that she was not a starter. But anyways, that's all on that for now. Steven, before we go to ad break, do you want to do our trivia real quick?
Now let's do the ad break first. Handle the business.
Okay. All right. Well, apparently Steven's going to trick me and maybe Ayrton into some trick questions after this quick break. What do you guys know about Mount America Credit Union, man? If you watch the show, you probably know a lot. They're having a double rewards program until the end of the month, till July 31st, so actually the end of next month. I'm so sorry, hate to lie. But Mount America Credit Union is committed to helping their more than 1 million members at their 100 branches throughout the West get 2 times the points on rewards credit card purchases throughout July 31st, just like I said, because I would never lie on them. Use your Mount America Rewards credit card and watch points pile up. It's perfect for gas, groceries, travel, home projects like my orange tree, and all other purchases. This promotion is an easy way to stretch your dollar since you earn twice as many rewards. Redeem your double points for rewards like travel rebates, gift cards, and event tickets. This is a limited time only. You have to take advantage of it while you can. Details at macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit. Offer can be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions do apply. Oh, my good friends over at Circle K. I don't think they know how much they mean to me. In and out of the studio, on and off the court. My PG1. and Circle K, they're kind of on the same like playing field for me. You know, like they both make everything I do a lot easier. Like getting to the arena, because without them, I don't have fuel. So shout out to them. You can be a part of the Inner Circle Rewards program just like me. 25 cents off your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents on every gallon after that, and then 5 cents if you work your way up into the inner circle like me, Steven. Even though Kevin's in Georgia, he's
The
still a part of the
Espo
inner
level.
circle. Oh, Espo
The
level.
Espo level. We let
And
him
then if
live with
you're
it.
whatever, he is the boss, so I'll let him have that one. But you can be just like us if you just go to the Inner Circle Rewards app, put in your phone number, and email address, join the Inner Circle Rewards for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. The gas, man, the gas. I had to buy some on my way home yesterday. It was kind of not fun. It was so hot yesterday. I saw that they
Was.
reached record temperatures at Wimbledon, and me and my good friend David Veenstra in the chat. What's up, David? We were talking crap because like it's 91 degrees over there, and it is 116 here today, and here we are, and they're reaching record temperatures. I'm like, y'all need to stop complaining. Like, get a fan. I don't know what to tell you. You ready for trivia, Steven?
Let's get it.
All right, well, take it away.
All right, we're gonna keep it a little bit more simple. Probably go with maybe 4 questions for today.
Wait, wait.
You listening?
Is Ayrton participating in this trivia session?
Ayrton, do you want to participate in Mercury trivia?
Why not? Let's
He
do it.
said, "Why not?"
I love that
Okay.
attitude.
Question for Erica and everybody in the chat. So everybody in the chat, please respond as promptly as possible. We'll try to keep tabs on the responses and try to record them. But I got a question before we actually start trivia, and it's for y'all and for Erica. Should I make sure to have these questions documented for Kevin to answer? Can we trust that Kevin? Can we trust that Kevin won't look up answers to these questions so that we can still have the competition between y'all to record for our record books? That's the
I
question
just feel
for me.
like I feel like Kevin and I's streak is fine, and I don't want there to be an asterisk next to his record because I'm, making cheating accusations, you know?
So what's your so? I got one no. I got a couple of no.
See,
What's
he
your
is
answer?
gonna
Are
cheat.
you saying no? Or are you saying you're not sure?
I'm just saying I think we can do it live with him in person, or else he's kicked off trivia. Like,
So do
you
you?
have to be in the producer's seat, or else you're not eligible to be a part of trivia.
So because you're in attendance, do you get extra credit then?
I
Like
argue me and Ayrton both get 2 points for being
how do
here.
we how do we factor this into the race? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think it doesn't count for the whole record, but when Kevin and I are going head to head, that's our record. And that's like the
Okay.
season record. Truly, but I feel like we owe everybody call him immediately after the pod to get his
Yeah,
answers.
that part. Yeah, that part for sure.
Honestly, I'm a little mad that he's not in the chat to be answering the questions like Kevo, post where
Mm-hmm.
you at? Like, I know
Mm-hmm.
you're busy, maybe on vacation with your girl, but like where you at, bro? Like you
Mm-hmm.
have places to be, dog. So nonetheless, I think
Obligations.
he's disqualified for today's episode of
He got the
SPG
DQ.
trivia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, considering all
DNP.
of the no's and the crying emojis and cheating accusations in the chat, we'll go ahead and leave that alone. All right, we can go ahead and start with this first one. We'll probably roll through 4, keep it a little more light this week. Um, in terms of league ranks, offensive rating, points scored per 100 possessions, where do you think the Phoenix Mercury rank? And I'll go ahead and condense it for your answer. They're in the top 5. Where in the top 5 do you have the Mercury ranked in terms of offensive rating so far this season?
Third.
Erica goes 3rd.
I was gonna say 2.
Ayrton goes
Ayrton,
2.
no cheating.
Little drum roll. They are number 5 right now. So a little bit of it stemming from yesterday's game. They didn't score as much because that pace was a whole lot more slowed down. And we'll get to the reasons why it was slowed down a little bit later in the show. But they are 5th right now in the W in terms of offensive rating, with the offensive rating of 104.0. So take that same template, flip it to the defensive end. That's the side where the identity lays more. That's the side they've been more comprehensively successful with so far this season as well. Again, also looking at the top 5 template, where in that top 5 do you see the Phoenix, or do you think the Mercury are ranked in terms of defensive rating?
I'm gonna go second.
Second? Okay.
I'm gonna flip. I'm gonna go 3 this time.
3. Little drum roll. They are number 4 in defensive rating right now, with the defensive rating of 98.5. Put those two together, they are, let me double check this, number 5 in the league in terms of net rating. You combine the offensive rating and defensive rating, you get the difference. Rank that amongst the rest of the teams in the league, they are number 5 at this moment in time. 0.1 behind the Indiana Fever, who have been on a little bit of a reel the last couple of games as Caitlin's been out. So keep an eye out on those. We'll be documenting them going forward throughout the rest of the season. But 2 more questions for everybody in the chat. So, and I'm torn on one of them, so I'm deciding on the fly which one I want to rock with. Let's go defensive rebounding percentage. So still in the advanced stats metrics. Mercury have been a team that they've had some ups and downs with rebounding, cleaning up the defensive glass at times in pockets of games. All of that, they're still top 5. So I bid you all another one. Top 5 defensive rebound percentage. Where do the Phoenix Mercury rank in terms of that stat? Where you got them at?
4th.
Okay, Erica's got 4th.
I think I'm gonna go 5 this one.
Ayrton's got 5. Drum roll, please. Ayrton.
Oh my god, I'm sick.
Let's
I'm
go.
sick. Oh.
Ayrton is right on the money. At this moment in time, so far this season, the Mercury are grabbing 69.7% of the misses that take place when they're on the defensive end of the floor. As I mentioned, that's 5th. They're only behind the Las Vegas Aces, Golden State Valkyries, Washington Mystics, and to nobody's surprise, considering the lineups they use, the Atlanta Dream at number 1, grabbing 72.3% of the misses. And then this last one is going to be fun. I'm very curious to see what Erica's response to this one is going to be. We're going
Hopefully it's right, so I
specific.
can tie Ayrton. This is sick.
Yeah, this is the rubber match right here for sure. Okay. So we know Alyssa Thomas leads the team in assists right now with 9.3. No surprise there. Who is number 3 on the team in assists per game so far this season?
Number 3?
I can give you options if you want to choose between these options.
Can it just
I'll
be
give
2 options?
I'll give 2 options or 3 options. Nah, we
2.
going 3. That's 2 is too easy.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
we'll
I
give
had
you
2 names in my head, and I wanted to know if the 2 names that I was thinking were the 2 that you were gonna choose. But go 3.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So this is for who is number 3 on the team in assists per game so far this season. We got Sammy Wickham, Monica Cole-McConney, and Satou Sabally. Who is number 3 on the team in assists this season on average?
I'm gonna go Monique.
Okay. Erica's got Monique.
Give me Sammy.
Ayrton's got Sammy. Drum roll, please. Nope. Satou Sabally is
Oh,
number
thank
3 on
God.
the team
Okay.
in assists.
Thank God.
With 2.6. She's averaging 2.6 assists per game this season. Thoughts, Erica?
I'm just glad that Ayrton didn't beat me 2-0, man. That would have been pitiful. Pitiful, dude.
Shout out to the homies in the chat that got that last one right. That one was tough for sure. But yeah, we got a couple people. I think I see 2 people that might have got that one right.
Is
Shout out
Mo
Ayrton,
second
though.
then?
Huh?
Is Mo second then?
Yeah, actually, Mo and Sammy are tied with
Oh,
2.5
okay.
assists on average
So
so far
this is
this
a
season.
trick question.
It
Okay,
wasn't
okay.
though. It wasn't though. It was not. But for full context purposes, in terms of total assists so far this season, obviously Alyssa leads with 112. Satou's number 2 with 44 assists. Number 3 is Monique with 42. Number four is Sammy with 40. So they got some nice little bit of players wheeling and dealing for the Mercury in terms of racking up assists so far this season. A team that passes a lot. So outside of Alyssa, the lines get blurred as far as who is averaging the most assists just because the team moved the ball so well. But that's the ecosystem that Alyssa has kind of established because of how often she moves it around. So another fun trivia day, number 3 for us. Another one where unfortunately Erica ties with her opponent.
No,
Um,
I lost. I still lose. I just
but
didn't
do
lose
we?
2-0. I only lose 1-0.
So we don't do ties. I think we established that after the first one. Do we want to do a rubber match?
But we didn't tie. I didn't get any right.
Well, oh, that's true. You didn't get any right. So Ayrton just outright won. Excuse me. I thought y'all tied. That's right.
Yeah,
Ayrton,
that was
you
fair and
outright
square.
won.
That was fair and square.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Ayrton,
So,
not too much, okay?
Eric Ayrton, this is your regular season debut, right? For Mercury.
It is, yes. I did your
So,
guys' show when they did all the preseason rankings.
got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, not unlike the Mercury rookies, Ayrton comes in and it's immediate impact. Just comes in and impacts winning upon arrival. Shout out to Freckle Mamba.
Our own personal Lexi Held.
Nah, literally. Well, would it be Lexi or would it be Monique?
I'm going Lexi.
I think he's got more Monique than Lexi.
He's giving the his bone density look is giving Lexi Held, man. So
She was going player archetype. I was just talking about the role playing point guard in the starting minute for the show. She went a whole nother route with it, but I'm not mad at it though. If that's the lens you're looking at it
it's
through, I'm
not
not mad at it.
derogatory though. Yeah,
No,
it's not at all
I'm not mad at it. It's
derogatory.
just we were on different sides of what we were assessing it off of.
Oh, but I'm getting fried in the chat, man. Erica's gonna lose this season, man. This is trash. I don't know if we're gonna do this like one more time, and if I lose, we might have to cancel trivia, man. Like maybe it's just a Kevin only segment. This is terrible. I don't like losing, man. And now we're gonna go talk about the Aces loss,
Wait,
and
real
I'm
quick
like,
for the chat, they were asking who's ahead of Satou in assists per game. In a technical sense, on average, is Megan McConnell. She's averaging slightly more assists per game in the minutes and games that she has played for the Mercury than Satou. So, technically speaking, that's the way that this is set up in terms of the numbers itself and rankings.
man, Megan McConnell. What do we
Yeah,
have we even talked about that since that
wishing
happened
for
on
wishing
this?
for a speedy recovery for her. That's a very tough break for her.
Yeah. Uh, I guess we did talk about it in the post game show on Friday because we
Yeah.
talked about the signing of Keanu Williams. So I guess
Yep.
we do our job better than I think we do sometimes, Steven. But I do want to get into this loss versus the Las Vegas Aces. The Aces did beat the Mercury 84-81 on Sunday. It was a very close game, 17 lead changes, 10 ties, an absolutely diabolical game, very back and forth. It was in my opinion, it was kind of coach off at certain points of the game where you're watching Becky Hammond. Maybe if you're Rob, you force Becky Hammond to go to the clipboard. If you know, you know. And if you are not, then you're forcing Nate Tibbetts to go to the clipboard. So I thought it was a fun game. Just real quick before we get into what coach had to say and things like that, what were your takeaways from the loss versus Vegas?
Yeah. The big thing for me is as the team continues to learn more about itself, each opponent that they're going up against is going to present unique challenges for them. And I mean challenges in the sense of opportunities to grow, whether that be growing through winning or growing through a loss. And naturally, you lose by 3 to the Aces. Anytime you lose to the Aces, it's never something to scoff at because that team is tried, tested, and true, especially at the top of the roster, and obviously extending to the sideline with Becky Hammond pulling all of the strings for that team. They have unique ways that they can go about beating opponents. They can beat you with shot making on some nights. They can beat you with defense on other nights. They can beat you with having the best player on the court. More nights than not with Asia Wilson, obviously. They can beat you with Chelsea Gray deciding to knock down 7 or 8 threes, which no one would be surprised by if she ever decided to do that. They can beat you with Jewel Lloyd knocking down 7 or 8 threes. Nobody would be surprised by that either. They just have multiple ways they can go about winning a game. And it wasn't for their offense that they won that game yesterday. It was because of their defense. And I think that's a good transition point to get to this clip from Becky Hammon in pregame, because she had a lot to say about Alyssa Thomas. She had a lot to say about everything that this Mercury offense is in a complementary fashion to everything that Alyssa Thomas is as a player. I won't even hedge it anymore. I'll go ahead and let the clip roll and y'all will hear what she had to say. Here's Becky Hammon speaking to everything that Alyssa Thomas is and the uniqueness of their approach to the defensive end in yesterday's game.
We're going to go in with a little bit different game plan than we've had in the past. I'm not going to tell you that, what it is, but we'll see how it works out. But she's playing at a really elite level right now, and she's just slicing and dicing defenses. I think it's imperative to try to stay one-on-one as much as possible, because when you put two on her, she just kills you with the pass.
There it is. Becky's watching the film, obviously with the rest of her coaches, and seeing that every time Alyssa attracts even the slightest bit of attention of another defender, that's either a direct pass going to somebody that's wide open that can knock down threes at 38% or better from deep, or it's an extra pass that's going to another person that's capable of doing the same thing or putting the ball on the deck and getting to the rim and keeping the defense in rotation from there. Maybe my biggest takeaway, and we recorded a quick short after the game, our burning minute. Is it right, Erica? What's the
One word burn.
one word burn? Excuse me. Our one word burns. And well, no, not one word burns for the short. For the short that we did post game yesterday. It was shout out to Kevin and his technology. That we came up with the name for it.
Technology is a crazy word for it, but yeah. No, like the one words we used yesterday.
No, post game. Yeah, post game.
I don't remember what they were.
Not the names, the title. It slipped my mind.
Oh, no, I'm pretty. Oh, the Scorch Report.
Yes, the Scorch Report. There you go. In our Scorch Report post game yesterday, I mentioned them going to switching. Becky didn't want to tip her hand pregame, but within seconds of the game, you could see what was going on. And it was their switching, the layers to their switching, the scenarios and the ways in which they went about doing so. Made it tough on the Mercury offense in ways that other teams simply were never comfortable, at least even thinking about trying to attempt to defend them in, outside of the Los Angeles Sparks. And the Sparks don't have the personnel that the Aces do, so it didn't hit the same way. But that was my biggest takeaway from yesterday's game that I mentioned in our Scorch Report. Just the switching and the ability for new teams as they gather more film to try to find different ways to just stagnate the Mercury offense as much as they can in the half court. I got more to speak to on that, but I'll kick it to you. What were your thoughts on yesterday's game? What were your thoughts on what Becky had to say from pregame in terms of switching up the approach to the defensive end, specifically because of Alyssa Thomas?
Well, I think it's really interesting because it kind of felt like the Mercury was kind of playing the Mercury in a few ways because we've talked about how well the Mercury has recovered on the switch all season on the defensive rotations. And so the Aces kind of figured it out defensively versus the Mercury yesterday. They've really, really struggled all season, I think, on the defensive end after watching a bunch of their games. Voters, I'm looking at you. But, anyways, I think that, they have a lot of new pieces, and it was only a matter of time until they put it together the way it was supposed to work. And yesterday was one of those games where it looked the way I think it was supposed to look. I do think that the Mercury had a poor shooting night from three, especially for being at home. But I don't think it was anything to like turn your nose up about. I do. They shot 10 for 24, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think that their attempts go up on a normal night where the Aces defense isn't as good as it was last night, but when they get the temps up, I think the Mercury win the game. So, it looks a little different, and my thoughts are that the Mercury can't win them all. Ka looked the best that she's looked since being back yesterday, and that was what I was most excited about. She looked comfortable, not only like in terms of her offense, but the defense and everything she was supposed to do there, her leadership. She appeared to be back to her normal self, for lack of a better term. Obviously, like not scoring at the levels of which like we're used to with Ka, but to our points that we've made all year, I don't think we should expect 40-point back-to-back 40-point games from Ka like we got last season. So, I think you're a little bit spoiled with the Mercury right now, and so the Mercury fans were probably hoping to win the game, but I'm not at all disappointed with the result of what we got. It
For
was a
sure.
great learning game, I think, and I think
Yes.
you're about to teach us a whole bunch here in literally just a second.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a game where you could learn a whole lot about how teams going forward are gonna at least attempt to try to defend the Mercury. And just about them when they do certain things, they're gonna get certain results. And when they kind of toe the line on the level that they usually play to in specific respects, the results can be kind of a little more varied and leave a game in balance. And the number I'm looking at in particular for the Mercury is assists. So on a season, they are number 5 in the league, averaging 20.7 assists per game. They have, as I'm doing some quick math, they have 11 games this season where they have 20 or more assists. In those games, they are 9-2, right? So in the games where they don't get to that number of 20 or 20 or more assists, they have a record of 3-3. So you kind of see the common denominator there. They get to 20 or more assists, they typically win. They toe that line. In the game yesterday, they literally toed the line. The game is kind of imbalanced. It comes down to a last second shot. You get a great look for Sammy Wickham. That's one that just happens to not go down. And you find yourself coming up just short. And I'm kind of landing a plane, but I'm tying it all together. So bear with me on it. So you look at last night's game, 19 assists. One thing that switching does, especially if you have a team that's specific and intentional about the context of play and the timing of the switches that they're cycling through, when you have a team that can't switch, it takes away some of the movement that your offense can get into. And taking away that movement, whether it be in pick and roll, you can't get downhill right away because rather than having a gap to attack, there's a body just sitting there waiting for you. Or if you're trying to work through your off-ball actions, which obviously the Mercury like to use a lot of off-ball screens for their shooters, if they're just comfortable switching those, you can't flow through those with the same type of movement that you typically do. It forces you to play through more layers of the shot clock. It forces you to think a little bit more. It forces you to just move a little bit more. And it takes away the rhythm of that. So now you have to do so a little bit more creatively and more outside the box than even a team like the Mercury, who does that off of their principles, typically does. They take away the assist, they take away the movement. Naturally, you also take away the paint touches. And the paint touches in particular is something that we've talked about process. The Mercury lead the league in three-point attempts with 29 on average a game, and they're also first in makes with 10. They get to that 29 three-point attempts generated, some of it because of transition, but even in transition, no different than the half court, it's a paint touch. Whether it's somebody with a cut that leads to a wide open shooter, or it's somebody getting downhill, typically Alyssa Thomas before anybody else, and getting a paint touch and pick and roll or isolation or post-ups. Because they're switching so much yesterday, it takes away that flow. You take away the paint touches. You take away some of the three-point opportunities, or at least how clean are the shots that they're typically used to taking. And then you take that game plan, you extrapolate it, and you apply it across 40 minutes of play. That makes it tough to get to your certain numbers that you may have done so as comfortably as you usually would in games prior. That's the beauty of the game plan from the Aces yesterday. And credit to them before anything speaking to the Mercury, because they did a great job of simply executing. But before I get to everything else that I want to get to, we can kind of kick it over to Arrington to set us up for a clip from Alyssa Thomas, just kind of speaking post game to some of the lessons they learned and why this learned lesson is going to be valuable for them going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I think you need games like this, especially, the way playoffs is. I mean, it doesn't matter what your record is come playoffs. So Like I said, we have a lot of rookies. This is a great test, a learning process. We're still feeling each other out, learning our rotations as well. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely can learn from these games. We'll have great video to watch, and we'll definitely see them again.
Yep, plenty to learn. They'll obviously see the Aces again, potentially come playoff time. But this will definitely be a bookmark moment for the Mercury as far as someone trying something outside the box that no one else has to the extent that they did, and the result obviously that they saw from it, and the opportunities for them to learn in that. And I also spoke with Nate Tibbetts yesterday. Spoke with him post game in particular about the ways that the Aces were defending Alyssa Thomas in particular. I kind of got the question involved with the clip, so we'll let the clip speak for itself, and then we'll bring it back to the topic afterwards. Over these last 3 games, one including the preseason, Chelsea Gray on Alyssa Thomas, just playing the switches. What is it about the switches in today's game that you feel like kind of maybe took away paint touches or flow from your offense?
Yeah, I thought in the second half we did a better job. The first half, AT wasn't getting downhill as much. I need to do a better job of moving some people around. But yeah, people are gonna do different stuff against us. They did a good job tonight, and we'll give them credit.
Yeah, got to give them credit for it. They did a great job executing the game plan. I got a little bit more to speak to on it, but I'll kick it to you, Erica. What were your thoughts on just the team's kind of energy after the game? Because it felt like, for me, they certainly weren't like disappointed, because that's not a team that you get disappointed in losing against. But they definitely felt confident about the fact that they know that they had openings to win yesterday's game, even amidst everything that was going on in the game.
Well, and I don't want to talk long about the officiating because I don't think it's a
Yeah.
super important topic, but I do want to bring it up for just a second
Yep.
because it did kind of at times ruin the flow of the game. And I think the style that the Mercury play feeds off of flow and pace. And so when they're not able to do their identity to the kind of level that they've grown kind of accustomed to through the last 15 games, it does become a pretty challenging game for them to get their offensive flow. And Ka is one of the most physical players in the league. We've got Kalia Copper and Alyssa Thomas, two of arguably the most physical players in the league. So I totally understand that foul calls are not always going to go the Mercury's way. That's just the way the cookie do be crumbling. But at the same time, the offensive flow was almost impossible for them to find at any point in the game. Even into the fourth quarter where they scored, 31 points, it still felt like a bad flow of the game all the way around. So I would say just a tough outing, but to your point, yeah, the Aces did a fantastic job doing exactly what Becky told them to do, I'd imagine. And so I'm not at all disappointed, and I didn't think that the players seemed disappointed. If anything, I think that this team has a mentality of motivation through everything, whether that's being left out by ESPN, not being included in the starting voters, or this particular thing where it's just losing a super winnable game. Like it's just a bigger reason to lock in more, take more shots in warmups, take more shots at shoot around, whatever that situation looks like for that particular player. That's the vibe I get from this team. They're willing to do the extra work that it takes, whether that's watch the extra film. They don't care. They're just willing to go in and do the extra work. And so I think games like that just more so motivate them to continue doing exactly what they're doing. I don't think that they were like hanging their head. I think that Cleo was a little bit frustrated about the offensive flow of the game for good reason. She had 15 points and they were an extremely loud 15 points. And you guys know I don't say that about anybody's just, 15 points. So like I've been talking about how quiet Satu's points have been for like, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all. I just mean that that's how it is. And cost points yesterday were extremely loud, and so I think that in a different world on a different day with a different set of refs, the game just looks a lot different. But I don't, and I think that they know that, so I don't think anyone's hanging their head.
Yeah, definitely no one was hanging their head. If anything, I gathered that there was a ton of confidence because Alyssa Thomas and Kalia Copper are smiling because they are embracing the challenge that it is to learn from this game, apply the lessons learned, and continue on with that trajectory of growth that they've been ascending on to the extent of being the second best league in a literal sense, in my opinion, second best team in the league, but also being second best in record. Those things are not by mistake, and that's because of their approach to the process. And to that point, over the course of that game, as you heard in the question that I asked with Nate Tibbetts, in the 3 games, including the one preseason game that they had against the Aces, we've seen a lot of Chelsea Gray being intentionally put onto Alyssa Thomas in terms of matchups. And that's to turn the actions that Alyssa likes to get into switches. And the ability to do that, and I talked about the kind of flow that in the way it stagnates our offense, but their ability to just get that part done early in the game, it felt like it weighed on the Mercury in the middle 2 quarters. But when you get to the 4th quarter, but especially the second half as a whole, it felt like their game plan continued to grow because you saw the offense feel a whole lot better in the second half than it did in the first. And a lot of that was because of the usage of Alyssa Thomas. So obviously, like if you've been listening to us, you know she likes to run a lot of pick and roll. She runs as much pick and roll as any player in the WNBA. If they're switching, that's not as effective. It puts the team in a different situation. It doesn't create the same advantage. How else can you get advantage from Alyssa Thomas touches? This is the beauty of having her because she's limitless on offense in her usage. Throw the ball to her in the post or in the high post or in the mid post, and you just get all types of movement with players screening for each other around her. And then you still get the beauty of her passing. And if those players that are cutting and running off of each other don't create anything, she can always just go one-on-one and probably get to the basket and get a paint touch for you. And they cycled through that a whole lot in the second half, but it was just a little tough for them to get to it. It took a little bit longer just because of the ways that the Aces were defending. So shout out to Becky Hammond and company, mixing in unders into switches here and then the under and the switch on the other end there and just flattening things out. But the Mercury game plan grew over the course of that game. And I think that if they maybe adjusted a slight bit earlier, maybe by the end of the second quarter rather than going into halftime, things might have looked different as far as how that game goes because they certainly got it going in the 3rd quarter into the 4th quarter.
Yeah, I mean, a 31-point 4th quarter is nothing to turn your nose
Nope.
up at. So it was definitely not a horrible showing from the Mercury. And even just looking at the score, you can tell it was a defensive game from both teams. So
Yep.
it was a great game. I tweeted that after the game or right before the game was over. It didn't really matter who won. It was a fantastic game through and through. Even with all the whistling, I found myself not complaining about the whistling as much because I did feel like while it was annoying how frequent it was, I did feel like it was actually pretty even, so I wasn't quite as frustrated as maybe I normally would have been. So, but that's just my eye test. Am I wrong about that, Steven?
No, the flow was definitely broken up some because of how frequently the whistles were occurring.
But it was pretty even on both sides, right?
But it
I think
was
they both went to
it
the
was
free throw
even for
line
the most
19
part.
times or something like that.
I think Vegas shot 4 more free throw attempts than Phoenix did yesterday. Let me double check that real quick. Vegas shot 26, so yeah, they shot 5 more free throw attempts. Phoenix had 21, Vegas had 26,
Yeah, I wasn't mad at it. So it
and it
was a
was
good game.
11 for Asia, which is not surprising.
Asia had one of those games that you're just happy to be in the building while it's happening because you're like, this is, and shout out to my man Bam for coming through the game. I didn't even mention, and also Phoenix Sun, future legend Phoenix Sun, Dylan Brooks in the building as well. I mean, dang, I will tell you, David Veenstra texted me during the game and he's like, DB24 in the building. And I'm like looking for Dewana Bonner. I'm like, then I look down and there he is. So yeah, that was funny because I feel like it really could be either of them at any time in the arena these days. So yeah, that was a fun time. Great game by the Mercury. Anything else on the game versus Vegas?
Yeah. Last thing I'll just mention just a couple of numbers from yesterday's game. Because when you get in these playoff style matchups, the slightest bit of margins matter. So a lot of questions about the rebounds in the chat. The Mercury lost the rebound battle by 1 yesterday. 36 for Vegas, 35 for Phoenix. In the 35 rebounds for the Mercury, 12 offensive rebounds. Don't quote me on that, but that might be their season high. I'm double checking that right now. Okay, that ties for their 3rd most offensive rebounds in a game. On the season so far with 12. That's a lot. That's a lot of second possessions that you're getting. And I'm bringing up the offensive rebounds in particular because talking about the margins, they took 11 more shots on goal over the course of the game yesterday. 71 field goal attempts. The Aces only had 60. Now, obviously, you add in the free throws, and that kind of mixes it up a little bit. But even with the free throws, the Aces only shot 5 more, like I just got done speaking to. So generally, comprehensively, the Mercury got more shots on goal. They hit their shots to their typical standards. That's a game that they win by 2 or 3, and that's by slim margins. But those things really matter when you're talking about these close matchups.
All I'm saying, I fear if Lexi Held plays, the Mercury win the game. That's all. I'm gonna say it.
That's fair.
Nonetheless,
That's fair.
I'm not gonna say she's like the biggest piece of their bench, but I feel like she
Mhm.
is a staple of the Mercury bench right now. And when they eventually get her back, they're gonna be at their true full
For sure.
strength, which I
For sure.
didn't think I would be saying in June when we started the season. But here we go.
Yeah,
Um,
she's important, but I also say they definitely want to get a better performance from Satou Sabally. 3 for
oh, for
14,
sure.
10 points yesterday. That's not her typical, especially as a Mercury player. Don't imagine she has another performance like that. For all of the free throw numbers that I just got done speaking to at the top of the show, she only had 3 yesterday as well. And that just, again, that's the switch in dynamic. You have to be a little bit more creative. You have to be a little bit more intentional about the approach. And to Nate's point, he mentioned it with Alyssa, but I think it could be the same thing with Satou. Creating a little bit more space within your spacing can be a lot better for them. So get a better performance from Satou. Also get a little bit more production from Onika Komakani. I think that changes things for the Mercury.
Yeah, Monique's shot selection yesterday seemed like by far the weirdest of the season.
Again, that's what the switching does to you. It makes you think a little, it
That
makes you operate a little different. Yeah. It's different. This is
I
first
was
time.
like, what am I
First time.
watching?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
for
sure.
sure. But nonetheless, the Mercury has a little bit of a, I wouldn't even say an easier week because I literally talked about last week that rest isn't always like the best thing. Sometimes it's nice to have consecutive games, and I don't mean back to back days, but at least not a whole 5 days and then 4 days and then no games and you're just sitting around waiting to play. But it is a fun game this week, I will say. They're playing in Dallas with my counterpart, DLS Wings. It's a great game. Hopefully, Paige Beckers will be back, as if
Yes.
things have been quiet in Dallas Wingland today, with trading Alyssa Smith to the Las Vegas Aces. I can't, I will say this about that situation. I didn't see it coming, but I'm also not necessarily surprised either, if that makes any sense. So I think it's an interesting move, and a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, Aces aren't going to be bad in 2026." And while I understand your thought process, I do. Rewind to the conversation we had like 45 minutes ago about how everything is going to look different over the next 3 years. And I'm not saying this is not breaking news about, Asia and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just saying that things could change significantly over the next couple of years. And so that 2027, first round pick could be a lot more valuable for, a Malaysia full Wiley or something, seeing of the sorts, just thinking big picture here. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on that little trade situation happening today. But I am excited for the second matchup versus the Wings. They played a good game, and Paige had her best game of the season versus the Mercury. So I'm interested to see if the Mercury changes up the defensive game plan versus the Wings.
Yeah, she's a
And
problem.
it's an interesting situation in Dallas because, it's easy to kind of stop one player. And so, if you put Monique or, Satu even or Alyssa on a player, they're not going to go crazy. We know it for a fact. But now you got two in Enrique and Paige, so it makes it a little more challenging to kind of make your stops on the defensive end. But I think the Phoenix Mercury will come out with a win ultimately, but I do think it'll be a good game.
For Thursday's game?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Monday because we're doing a true post game on Thursday, y'all. So don't get too ahead of ourselves on the Monday game when we're back at home and I can talk to Paige again myself.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think especially coming off a very very telling win against the Washington Mystics on Saturday. Um, very very impressive win for Dallas in that one, especially considering how many players were out for that game? Like 6 or 7, 6 players out for that game. 5
I think
players,
they had
some
7 available. So
it's a 7 available. Excuse me. Yeah.
yeah.
So to have that coming into a game and one of those 7 obviously being Paige Beckers that was out, that's tough. And then this Mystics team was rolling coming into that game too, and they came out and handled business. Lee Yeru changes some things in this matchup just because of her size, her versatility on defense, on offense as well, the ability to space the floor too. I think she poses a unique threat for this for the Mercury with Dallas. I still think the Mercury win this game. It's just gonna have to look a little bit different because you won't be able to kind of beat up on them on the boards and just in the paint in general to the extent that you did in that first matchup with Dallas. So it's gonna be fun to see how that one plays out. Especially with it being a road game and the Mercury doing everything that they've been doing on the road the last handful of games. It's gonna be fun to watch them match up with them. I imagine Dallas is gonna have some adjustments that they make so they don't allow for the game to get out of hand like it did in the second half of the matchup from the week before last. But it's gonna be fun to see how this team responds to not just going up against Dallas, but also their immediate opportunity following a game that they felt like they should have won against the Las Vegas Aces. One of the fun things to watch with teams, especially the competitive ones, how many times do they lose multiple games in a row? I think that's something that we saw last season, especially early on, that they didn't allow themselves to get into games where they went on losing streaks. Can't imagine this Mercury team is going to allow for one loss to impact the game that comes right after that. So I'm going to be kind of watching for how that plays into this upcoming one on Thursday.
The comment that says Lonnie dunk on Lee is absolutely hilarious. I will say I'm expecting a fun outing from Satou Sabally. That's just because this is her first time revisiting Dallas since coming to Phoenix. So I would expect a fun showing from her. I would expect at least a significant amount of attempts. I feel like 14's light for our girl Satu. So, I'm looking for a little bit of an increased number there. But I think ultimately, like to your point, I don't think this team is going to be the type of team that's going to lose back-to-back games, especially against teams that they know that for a certain fact that they are better than, and that's no tear shade to Dallas. That I think they're eventually going to be a really great team. They've got to figure it the hell out, but is what it is for now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
talking about that team, man, it's horrible. When I watched on Friday, I got the joy of watching the Mercury beat the Liberty in PHX Arena. We had our post game show, it was dope. Then I came home and I had to rewatch Wings games, and oh my gosh, it's so painful. Like going from just fantastic, beautiful, glorious, heart eye emojis, everywhere when you're watching the basketball, and then just boom, you're like, this is crap ball, man. Like, am I really watching this after I just watched the Mercury? Anyways, nonetheless, no tears shade to Dallas though. Love you guys. Thanks for everything, DLS. Anyways,
I'll
that's
say
all.
real quick on that matchup. And I say this respectfully. Alyssa Thomas and Maisha Hines Allen. That is a grown woman matchup. There's a competitive bar that's about as high. It feels like it's about as high as it gets across any 1v1 matchup because they both play similarly. And it's by similarly, I mean there's a lot of contact. If the whistle isn't together, there's gonna be a lot of bodies on the floor because they're just gonna be running people over for rebounds, running people over on the way to the basket, and attempting to run each other over. And neither one of them falls because they're just built similarly. But that matchup is gonna be fun to watch. Alyssa definitely had her way with it when they played the Wednesday before last. I imagine AT is gonna come in and set a tone with that immediately as well. And smiling doing so through all of the contact that she creates and just plays through because she just goes unfazed by anything that opponents try to do to her and literally laughs. No one laughs as much as she does when people try to out physical her because it's a joke to her. It really does seem like that.
Our comment section is absolutely crazy today. I won't even read those. Those are they're on one today. Man. Oh my gosh, they just called her Timu AT, man. Oh no. Oh man, okay, that's tough. But nonetheless, it is going to be an interesting game for the Wings too because they've got players coming back from
Yeah.
Eurobasket. So
Yeah.
Luisa and
Mm-hmm.
Tierra, I believe. So
Mm-hmm.
it should be a fun game. I was very, 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 very capital V impressed with Luisa when they came and played in Phoenix the first time. So I hope that she slides super seamlessly back into her role and that it's a good game. But yeah, I think the Mercury
Commissioner's
will come
Cup
out with a.
tomorrow. Don't forget.
Should we make a prediction about that?
Of course. By the way,
Since we only got
I
one
do
Mercury
have the
game.
Mercury winning on Thursday. If I didn't
Oh, period.
clarify, yes.
All right, this damn Commissioner's Cup. All right. We got Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, maybe Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, maybe
Yeah.
Kelsey Mitchell and the Indiana Fever versus Nafisa Collier right now, the running MVP #1 in the driver's seat of the MVP bus. Nafisa Collier, if you watch the show for a long time, you know that we're big Nafisa Collier believers in this house. And I personally think I see y'all's comments. I don't think it's going to be Lynx in a blowout, but I do think the Lynx will get the better half of this game. I think I'm going to say it, the better team all the way around. When you have Nafisa Collier, it's not really unreasonable for me to say that about them versus almost anyone in the league. But then on top of it, they have a true point guard in Courtney Williams. We talked about the strength of having her at that position last year. Super, super in depth during the playoffs. But Courtney Williams' court vision has been really, really fun to watch. And then on top of it, the backup, Natisha Heidemann, isn't exactly a let up this year at all. Her shooting's improved so much that it almost gets harder to play when Natisha Heidemann's on the court. And then on top of it, you got Kayla McBride absolutely cooking up any team that she's ever played against in her entire life. She doesn't care if you're the, 2003 LA Lakers. She will cook you. She does not care. And so, yeah, it's been a really fun team to watch. I still hate the Lynx through and through, unfortunately for everyone, myself included, but I do think the Lynx will get the dub, and I'll be rooting for the Lynx. I need all the reason and more for my agendas to all stay alive. So I also I don't have the schedules in front of me, but I think that the Fever had a pretty easy route to getting to the Commissioner's Cup comparatively to some teams around the league. And so, I ain't going to name names, but I'm just saying, it seems like there was an agenda of someone's own at hand here. So that's all I have to say about that, though.
I'm not touching that part. You said you got Minnesota winning, right?
Oh, for sure.
You got a score?
Oh man. I'm gonna go 989 to 78.
Okay. Um, I do think Minnesota wins. Um, let's go 92 to 85. I think it's gonna be a relatively close game. Minnesota wins it. Commissioner's Cup MVP. You got a player in mind?
Uh, Fee MVP of and I don't think it'll even be close. I think Nafisa's playing some really great basketball. So it's,
Mhm.
yeah, unless Kayla McBride has a classic game, which is very possible. Almost all
Mhm.
of them are classics these days. I feel like she's got 5 3-pointers in every game that I've ever watched of the Lynx with Kayla McBride on the team. So that's tough. But yeah. So either Nafisa and my 1B is Kayla if she decides to go off tomorrow.
You gotta pick one.
I'm gonna go Nafisa then.
I got Caleb McBride. I think
I'm glad
Kayla's
that we're
going.
both taking one of them.
I think she's gonna have like a 5 3-point outburst, and it's gonna be just too much. It might happen in the fourth quarter, for all we know, because of the cloth that she cut from is just different. She's just unfazed by the moment. I will say though, I think Courtney Williams is gonna be very important in that matchup for non-fee advantage creation. Going to get a paint touch, being able to knock down middies the way that she does, play the defense that she does. I think Courtney's gonna have a good game, and I'm gonna also take this Lynx opportunity to shout out. I was about to say Alyssa Thomas, Atlanta Smith, because I'm talking about defense in particular. Atlanta Smith is somehow having a better defensive season this season than she did last season. Just special. I think if they're going to win 92 to 85, like I predicted, it's going to be a lot of Atlanta Smith impact within all of that. Jessica Shepard as well, but Atlanta Smith in particular, the activity that she plays with on the defensive end, also being able to knock down 2 or 3 threes on her own. and make any pass in a book that you want from a front court player, they're set up for success. I believe they won the Commissioner's Cup last season as well, so I have them
did.
now repeating as back-to-back Commissioner's Cup champions.
It's fun. I think the Commissioner Cup records is really fun because New York won it in 2023.
Yep.
Lynx won it in 2024. I still say the Phoenix Mercury are going to be the WNBA champions at the end of all of this. So I hope that that tradition dies this year and that, the last year's Commissioner's Cup champions does not win the championship. But nonetheless, it's been a fun thing to kind of watch develop since the Commissioner's Cup come around. So,
The
but
Aces won
also,
the inaugural one too in 22.
yeah,
And they
I
eventually won
did.
the championship.
Courtney Williams,
hmm
if she ever came back to Phoenix, should I say, since they did draft her, um, Nate would have to stop calling the mid range the manure strip
Yeah,
because
no
she's
way.
automatic from there.
That's not flying. That's
Like,
definitely not
that's
flying
her
with
main
Courtney.
spot. When she
Nah, that's
starts taking
definitely.
other shots, I'm like, Courtney, you forgot your brand, girl. Like, let's bring it back to what we know. And I'm not saying she shouldn't take other shots, but she's just a
hmm
green freaking bean, green light from that 2 feet under the 3-point line. It's just
For
boop,
sure.
it's in.
For sure. Yeah. Courtney, if Courtney ever made her way back to Phoenix, there would be I would love to sit in on the conversations between her and Nate on shot selection and shot profile.
We'd have to get them both on the show at the same time because that
For
is a
sure.
worthy question regarding the manure strip of
For
Nate
sure.
Tibbetts' pass. I feel like other media members, like national media, probably sees like Mercury Media continuing to say manure strip, and they're like, "What the hell are you guys talking about?" And you know what? I'm gonna keep it that way. I like it that way. You know.
I will say though, he always makes sure when it does come up that he mentions come playoff time, that's a shot that he likes a whole lot more than he does in the regular season. So it's not that he's completely against it. He just values other shots in process because of the shot quality that comes from them.
Well, and Steve and I have literally talked about it's not that he does not want them taking mid-range shots. He just doesn't want them taking bad mid-range shots, which a lot of teams are really good at doing. And so he
Yep.
wants the Phoenix Mercury to be good at selecting which mid-range shots they're taking. And
Yep.
so far, it's worked out pretty well in their favor. I'm looking at you, Monica Cole-McConney, who literally knocks them down consistently a lot from the mid-range. So
And shout out
anyways, anything
Kid
I'm
Loxa knocking down middies the last
backs.
couple of games too. Where did this? I feel like she took maybe one mid-range jump shot before this past weekend, and over the weekend she took like 6 or 7, and I feel like
She's
she made
pulling
like 4
up.
or 5 of them.
Yep. I'm like, kid, dang. Not who
Yeah, I was
are
like,
you
where
and
did this
what have
come
you done with our
from?
kid? But yeah, where is this? Is this allowed? Literally, anyways. Nonetheless, is there anything I'm forgetting that we were supposed to get to today?
Nope,
Killer,
I think we
killer,
got it
killer,
all.
killer. Dang, we killed him. Ayrton, you are gonna have to tell the people where to find you because I actually have no idea what the username of your X account is.
Get
So
ready
please,
to
Ayrton.
laugh.
On Twitter at Freckled Mamba. Give me a follow.
Wait, I did know this. Now I'm just a horrible person, man. Okay, well, you can follow Steven at Steven PG3. I do know that one by heart. You don't have to have any worries or doubts about that. You can follow us together at PHNX_Mercury. Even in a Mercury loss, the generational run is still running. So don't run from the PHNX_Mercury account. It's arguably one of the best Mercury accounts out there, including but not limited to the Mercury Real account. So, but you can also follow me at Erica Lee Day, and we will be back for a post game after the Mercury play the Wings on Thursday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So be there, be square. I believe Kevin will be back in the chat. So maybe we'll get some true trivia up and running again where it's running through the season. I'll have to go back and watch our last one and see what our overall record is because I know it's not good for looking good for Erica, but it'll get better. I'll improve. Just like Satou Sabally's 3-point percentage, Erica's trivia percentage will go up with the season. But we will see you guys on Thursday. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.